Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you today?
Hola. Excellent.
Good, good. Good to see all of your faces. Everybody looks so happy. And yes, kudos to the hat, Terry. And for all of you who live in the Northeast, kudos to the weather. Yes. Finally, right? Yeah. So thanks for joining me in this hour of sunshine and warmth. So after we hang up, let's all run outside, okay? All right, so today we're going to be talking about the afterlife. What happens after Corona? And I think it's really helpful that since this is an opportunity that's been given to us, hopefully once in a lifetime, we want to maximize the potential of what we can gain individually and collectively from this. You know, what we're probably apt to do is to go back out into the world and observe to see what the changes are. But that's making the assumption that we're not part of those changes. So rather than sitting back and waiting to see how things unfold, this is a fantastic opportunity to be at the forefront and to help things unfold. Victoria, Derek, how are you guys? Good, good. So, you know, you can be mindful of a choice right now to not be passive in the next few months, the next couple of years, the next few weeks, but to be putting your energy into creating what you want for your own life and what you want for the globe. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today and over these next 3 sessions. First, let me take a quick pause to say happy birthday to Helen. Let's give a wave and a happy birthday.
Thank you.
To Helen, happy birthday. So we'll do this.
Thank you.
Yay! So blow them out. Wait, hold on. Make a wish. And then, ready? 1, 2, 3. Woo! Yeah, there's the smoke. Okay? Your wishes are in the atmosphere. Happy birthday. So let's talk about this in terms of how we want the world to be. It's very easy to show up after this and again, expect other people to lead the way. You got to remember, we're all in this at exactly the same level. Nobody knows the way. Nobody knows the way. It's sort of like if you came to a massive maze, like a corn maze, and you were there and there was a pot of gold at the end of the maze. Or there was like a dungeon with crocodiles at the end of the maze. As you're entering into the maze, you've got to rely on your own judgment and instincts, your own tools, your own wisdom, your own intuition. You have to rely on everything you have so that when you come out of that maze, you're at the location you want to be. But what if we had ways to strengthen our ability to move through that maze so that we could wind up at the pot of gold instead of at the dungeon with the crocodiles? That's our choice right now. We're at the entrance to the maze. And it's important that we understand that. And what's even more interesting is that other than the non-physical source of guidance, nobody has an aerial view of our maze right now. So we're all at exactly the same starting point. We all have the same exact distance between here and there. So what differentiates us at that beginning point in this new maze is what we are bringing to it. What are we confident in? What do we trust? And the one thing that we have more developed than most people is our intuition. And it doesn't have to be the kind of intuition developed right now to the level that mine might be. It could be intuition where, here you go, where you're just acting on instincts. You're acting on pops of thoughts that that appear out of nowhere. You're acting on urges. You're acting on past experience even that brought you to spaces where you want to be. And I'll give you an example of this. Right before we came on today, I did a session with a person, and at one point I was getting that person's body could benefit from sweet potatoes, of all things, right? You know, not dark chocolate at this moment, but sweet potatoes. Okay. So it's interesting because what I always explain to clients when we're doing sessions and I get anything about your relationship with your body and I get some kind of specific suggestion for the future, you got to remember that science is just like this big in comparison to the information available. So we can't always rely on science. So we don't actually know the nutritional impact of foods or the combination of foods or ways that we exercise our body. We think we know, but we really don't know everything fully. And so when she got sweet potatoes as a suggestion today, yeah, she could look up like what the nutrients of sweet potatoes are, but then why didn't the guide say it's high in C, so why not say broccoli or oranges? Well, they said sweet potatoes. So it could be that there are aspects in sweet potatoes that have different ways of combining with other food choices, or it has a specific relationship with her body that no science is going to tell us, okay? But here's the reason I'm telling the story is she was a little surprised because she had just made, for the first time in her life, about a week ago, she had made sweet potato hummus. And she made sweet potato hummus because of this tumbling of stuff that happened. There were sweet potatoes on the counter. No one was eating them. She's like, I better just cook them before they go bad. Then they sat in the refrigerator, cooked, and she's like, they're bland. So then she went and she looked up a recipe. She found sweet potato hummus, and then she's been eating it all week. So here's the way intuition works. Somehow someone bought those sweet potatoes. That was a co-created idea from the infinite wisdom of the universe or from a specific guide. Then she looked at them on the counter, and instead of just tossing them into the compost pile or tossing them into the garbage, she said, oh, we got to cook these before they go bad. Then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. So when you look at the timeline of everything that happened to get those sweet potatoes into her body that she's been eating all week, you can see how magnificent the universe is in helping us to be where we want to be and to get what we need. I don't like the word need, but sometimes when it comes to nutrition, let's just say something that our body wants, okay? That same aspect of intuition is working with us even if we're unaware. So part of me saying your body wants sweet potatoes on the phone for her today was just so she could go back and see how exciting and useful intuition is, and that she was being guided even though she was completely unaware, right? You know, there's times when I will have an email that I have to answer, and I'm pretty diligent about answering emails. I know you guys think 2 hours is diligent. I think 2 days is diligent, but I'm really diligent about it. And once in a while, I'll just let one sit there and I don't feel like answering it. And I'll let it sit there and I don't feel like answering it. There's no real reason. It's nothing about the person. It's nothing about the content. I just don't feel like I'm ready to answer it for no particular reason. And inevitably, what winds up happening is that the email works itself out. It gets resolved, and my inserting myself in between the initial email and when I would give an answer, it becomes moot. And I'm sure everybody here has had that experience. It's a different experience than procrastinating. Procrastinating is, well, that's a whole different seminar. But this is just a sense that it's not, I'm not drawn to do this right now, and I can't say why, because I've done all the emails before it and I've done all the emails after it. I'm not drawn to do this one. The same thing. So when I'm talking about trusting our intuition now, I don't mean that you have to be at the level yet where you are sitting down and chatting with your guides, or you feel them, or you're auto writing or channeling books, or doing all of the things that I do on a regular basis. This is about knowing with confidence that you're at a level of awareness where you are activating the non-physical resources that are guiding you, and that you're doing so proficiently. So if we're looking at us being at the beginning of the maze again, if you now approach that maze with analytical reasoning only and no other sense, you're going to get yourself lost. You want to bring something more to that maze, and that's exactly what we want to bring to the maze of life when we get back into being among the world. Here's how we can sense and know and trust our intuition in ways that might not feel as direct as conversations or channeling or auto writing or getting pops or answers in dreams or anything like that. But the less apparent ways are available to us at all times. One of the easiest ways to learn how to tap into intuition is to trust that our attraction is working in our best interest. To trust that our attraction is working in our best interest. Okay? So let's say we're in this corn maze, and whatever we come up to our first choice of pathways that we could go. Let's say this one has like a lot of sunshine and light is filtering through. And let's say this one just kind of has a drearier kind of look, right? If we're attracted to the one that has some sunshine in it, then trust that. Trust it. Trust it. Trust it. So you already have not overthought the first divider in the maze, because you've trusted that you are attracted to that light. Then you might come to another one where there's other things to see. So the next thing you want to start to look for is another way to really unfold your intuition is curiosity. So now let's say I'm here, and suppose there's like little brown berry looking things over here, and then green foliage. And down here there's just green foliage, right? So now I really want to check out what those brown berry things are. So now I'm curious. So your curiosity will help to make that next intersection decision for you. Okay? You got to remember, the universe doesn't trick us. It doesn't trick us, nor does it decide for us. It simply reflects that which it is we can energetically engage in and respond to. So if you were to stand here and say, well, maybe the universe is tricking me with this maze, and maybe it's trying to make me go to the berries to trick me into getting to the crocodiles. No, the universe is always guiding you to your best places. Always guiding you to your best places. So if you're not attracted to the dingy path, and you're not attracted to the path that doesn't have the berries at this moment, then you want to recognize that the universe is guiding you through your attraction and your curiosity to bring you to your best places. The opposite of attraction here is worth looking at too, because at hand here, we also have at play repulsion. If you pay attention to what repels you, you will also be tapping into intuition. So again, let's get to the maze. And suppose you, trying to put this cap on this, but it doesn't work that way, does it? Let's put that cap on there. So suppose let's get to another intersection. So here we come up to another intersection. Now imagine on this direction, there's this huge, huge spider web. You know, one of those really big ones, like the size of a truck? Okay, so you see it, and it's got just a little bit of glistening so that you are aware of it, other than just walking through it face first and getting that spider's web all over your body. Like, I'm sure we've all experienced walking into it. Now, so the second you get the glimpse of it, are you repelled by it because you've had a similar experience where the big monster spider landed on your face, right? If you're repelled by it, then, well, for sure, go that way. However, what if you're like me and Derek, and we're like, our curiosity is like, wow, let's check that out. I wonder what the mathematical science behind this is. Work with me, Derek. What's the math behind this? How long did it take to make? What is the species of this spider? Now, my curiosity, it kind of lines up with my attraction. So I'm going to go this way, but I still trust. You would have gone the other way, Derek? We'll still both get there. I'll meet you at the pot of gold, okay? Is that all right? I'll meet you there. So number one, even though if you've known me for 10 years, we've been working on intuition development for 10 years. And if you did the last 2 classes with me, we worked on communicating and connecting with your guides in new ways. That's going to be a part of what you want to do on a regular basis to make sure that you stay connected. But even if you're not at the level where you want to be at this point, moving forward after Corona, you want to trust these pushes and these pulls. They're designed to be visible and available to you because they work. They not only bring you to your best places, but they also prevent you from being hurt or damaged or scared or anything like that. So that's the first thing we want to think of when we're moving forward. What are we attracted to and what are we repelled by? How can we listen to our intuition? Intuition also shows itself with a little bit less effort than paying attention to your curiosity and your repulsions and your attractions, but simply through signs. And signs is a very self-apparent way to kind of mark your trail and also to get evidence of what trail might be right for you. So watch for signs. Signs are, you thought about, I had a client today that went to the Bronx to work in a food pantry today. So there were all kinds of signs that happened over the last 2 days that led her to realize that this decision was a good decision for her. So watch for signs, whether it's license plate, vanity plates, whether it's songs, music, actual signs on walls. Watch for signs as well, because signs are one of the easier ways that guides can get in there and guide us in a little bit more of a visceral way, a tangible way, a way that we can have some more trust or confidence in the fact that we are not alone. All right? So when we're moving forward, you want to trust your intuition. Intuition, and I'm going to describe this to you and define it for you in a way that can help you take some of the mystery out, or maybe take away some of that feeling that you don't got it. What intuition really is this is a very clear way to think about intuition. And this is what has always helped me understand it. So you have a higher self. You have a higher self, okay? And the top of your smile is connected to your eye in your higher self. You also have a human, and you sent a piece of your higher self to your human being. Like all of you beautiful people here, you're just a piece of your own wholeness, your own eternal being. So when you send a piece of yourself back, your higher self works in Mission Control Center, helping to get you messages, trying to keep you on track, helping you overcome earth amnesia, and so on. And that link of energy between you and your higher self, it's sort of like an umbilical cord. And that umbilical cord, it passes information back and forth. When we get indoctrinated into the human experience, human beings tend to cut some of that cord off for us, so it gets frayed or it gets blocked, and we forget that there's this two-way conversation happening at all times. So intuition is the recovery of the fullness of that umbilical cord, so to speak. Actually, instead of seeing it as an umbilical cord, it just helps us to understand the connection through that and the process of giving life. But I actually always see it as a fiber optic cable. And the fiber optic cable is wrapped of tons and tons and tons of nearly imperceptible little optic cables, each one with a light. So if there's 1,000 fiber optics in one cable, all these pins of light are shooting, and we all know how fast the speed of light is, right? So this connection between us and our higher self is more like a wrapped fiber optic cable. So when someone is mean to you when you're a child, and you got all these lights flowing back and forth to you and the universe and you and your higher self, when someone is mean, they just kind of block one of those little cables, and then someone else blocks someone, and then someone else blocks someone, and someone else makes one like opaque instead of transparent. Well, this is why we feel so uncomfortable often when we become adults, because we're disconnected because all the lights were dimmed. You know, when I always talk about how you, if you have anyone that kept your soul candle lit when you were a kid, and you can reignite all of it when you become an adult. This is a kind of a good illustration of that process of how it works. It's turning back the lights on. It's making that connection work again when you become an adult, and undoing whatever it is that somebody did when you were younger that dimmed those transmissions. Now, when we use the word light, this is why I like the idea of a fiber optic cable. When we use the word light, a lot of people use it as a synonym for love. So we're actually transmitting love back and forth, back home and to ourselves. For illustration purposes, I simplified this, but this cable back home, it doesn't just stop at our higher self. This cable connects to everything, to all of existence. It connects to creation, to every single soul, to all souls. It connects to love. It connects to everything eternal. So I did simplify it just for us to understand the process of the umbilical cord. But what you're really tapping into with this cable is all that is, all that exists now, and all that you have ever known or experienced in the past or your entire eternal journey, and everything that you will experience too. Now, if one of these little tiny dots in the fiber optic cable, and one of those tiny, tiny strands, if it gets crudted up with other people's junk, we got to clean the cables out. We got to clean the cables out. So the way to clean them out is to use intuition. Intuition is the cable cleaner. Intuition is our cable cleaner. And the more we clean out our cables, the more light and love comes through our cable to us. So intuition is not all that mysterious. It's just reopening and reigniting and remembering. It's all the re's of what we knew eternally. That's what intuition is. So whether you're being guided by your attractions, your repulsions, your curiosities, by signs, by psychic hits, by messages, by auto writing, by dreams, by feeling guides, whatever you are using to be aware of your intuition, every time you activate your intuition, you are clearing out one of these cables and allowing more light and love to flow through. You know, am I special? I'm special because I'm special, but I'm no more special than you. We are all as special. There's no hierarchy of the greatness or the brilliance or the magnificence of any soul in human form or not. The difference in how I might show some shine more than other people is I put effort into clearing out these strands. So the light and the love from our eternal wisdom is flowing more than it may be flowing for most people. That's the only difference between me and you. The only difference. When a person is living in fear, when a person is living in greed, when a person is living in any destructive way to themselves or to others, when a person is not behaving soulfully, they're clogged. Their intuition is dialed way, way, way down. Love is not coming through from their eternal memories. Oh, thank you, Anne. I just saw your message. I appreciate it. Cool. That's the only difference between people who are being harmful to themselves or others and those who are tapping into intuition, who are aiming to be more soulful at every turn of the page. The only difference is that we are allowing our eternal wisdom and all eternal wisdom that is available to us to touch us, to motivate us, and to guide us. That's the only difference. It's the only difference. Okay? All right, so now that established, when we move forward, we're going to be seeing a lot of both. We're going to be seeing a lot of people whose cables are flowing very, very, very freely back and forth, people who are very connected. And we're going to be seeing tons of people that the light is quieted in all of the strands. One of the things to remember about this system of thought, I think it's easy if we use like a number, that there's 100 strands. If there's 100 ways, and there's certainly more than 100, but if there's 100 ways we can demonstrate or parallel with soulful behavior, then that means there's 100 ways that we or other people can not parallel with soulful behavior. So we're not either all soul or all human. We're this mixture that's very, very, very specific to our childhood experiences, plus or minus what we've done to grow or become more enlightened as we are adults. So you might have someone that owns, an animal shelter, and they got a lot of light flowing about the value of being kind and taking care of animals and honoring the animal kingdom on the planet, and perhaps undoing some of the harm that unenlightened humans have done to them. But you could have other areas in which the light is completely not shining in your own personal cables. So after going and closing the animal shelter at the end of the night, you might go home and start yelling at people for not having their masks on, or you might tell your child that if you don't clean your room, you're not, you're not showing that you love me. It doesn't mean that just because a light is on in one cable or one strand, that it's on in all of them. So what we want to do today in the first of these 3 sessions is we want to become aware of what we value in our soulful choices and focuses, so that we can use that information, that two-way street, for moving better, for moving forward, for better lives for ourselves, and to whatever extent we want to, better lives for other people. So I'm going to give you your homework assignment for now until, I know the weather's beautiful and you got a lot to do. So do this at midnight, okay, when the sun's down or something. But this is a very, very, very meaningful and beneficial assignment for us to do. And since we don't know the exact date yet when we're going to be out and about fully, you actually have plenty of time to get this done. But for the purposes of our nice, cool group here, we do want to share. And we all know from the last 2 series that sharing helps so much because it ignites thoughts inside of us that we hadn't realized. And it also reinforces positive views that we've already had. So the sharing helps to take whatever you're getting through your fiber optic cable and then expanding it through what everybody else is getting through all of theirs and putting it into a pool so then you can be more informed to decide what it is that you would choose. So what we're going to do as our homework assignment is I want to make lists of what I value and try to make it clear, try to make it specific, try to make it deep, try to make it have a lot of entries. I get that we could hang up today and say what I value is, good health, happiness, and harmony and world peace. But that's not going to do it. It's just not going to do it because when you go out and you're shopping or someone bumps into you or someone cuts you off or the traffic all reappears or someone is mean, you're not going to say, what I value is harmony and peace for the world. So we want to break it down into bite-sized pieces of what it is that we value. And one of the easiest ways for us to do this is there's 2 different ways to look at this. And pick which one you prefer, because if you stick with that, it'll help you. I know I do something to make these things not show up. There we go. All right, so you're going to choose one. They're actually quite similar in the end, but we each look at things in a different kind of way. So choose one of these. Can you see? All right, cool. All right, so the first one would be mind, body, soul. And the second one would be looking at things in terms of our relationships with the material world, so one would be to say what I value regarding my relationship with the mind, my relationship with the body, or my relationship with soulful living or soulfulness. The other way of looking at this, to break it down so you can get into bite-sized pieces that are specific about what you value, would be to break it down in terms of your relationships. Since you're in the physical, all of your relationships that you have in the physical. That would be your relationship with the material world, which is your assets, your income, your debts, your ownership, your possessions, your purchasing, where you spend your money, and how you live with the material world as well, the physical world. This is all about the physical world, okay? Your relationships with yourself and others, of course, the most important relationship is your relationship with yourself, especially as a platform for your relationships with others. And the last one is your relationship with your body. That has all to do with nutrition, exercise, how you feel, your longevity, illness versus healthfulness, and so on. Then the other way is to use this. And as I walk through it a little bit, just see which side is more comfortable for you. Sometimes this is a little bit too vague for people to really sink their teeth into. And this one just makes it a little bit more specific or physical so that they can understand different areas to look at. So let's go through some examples. How do we feel about the planet? If you're going through life and you are most intimately connected through letting your soul's growth flow through the physical existence of the material aspects of your life, then you might not pay attention that much to the planet. That's okay. It's okay if you're not paying that much attention to the planet. Then you're not going to have in the material physical world part that you value the bird community, or that you value how much oxygen versus carbon dioxide is being emitted, the state of plastics in the ocean. If you don't value that at the moment, then you don't put it on the list, and that's okay, because no one person can do all things. We actually have to prioritize, because the one thing that's finite in the midst of the infinite is the human lifespan, the time that we have, the numbers of hours in a day, a week, a month, a year, and a life. So we have to prioritize. We can't do all things. So you're going to put down what you really value. If you value walking out of the house and going somewhere and having everything that you're wearing coordinate, you know, you got this top and this bag and this hat and shining, sparkling earrings, or earrings that represent a place you've traveled. But if you value how you groom or how you dress or how you accessorize, then you write that. This is not about judgment at all. If you were taking care of removing plastics from the ocean, and someone else that you love is only paying attention to the kinds of earrings that they're wearing, it doesn't make you a better person, because you can't even imagine what went on behind those earrings. What went on behind them? What would happen? What went behind the materials and the purchasing and the distribution system? Or did you make them yourself? Were you creative? Did you buy them from someone that made them? It's not about judgment. It's about what you value. Do you value being appreciated in your career? Then that's your relationship with the material world. So, right, I value being appreciated at work. Or if you're a business owner, I value being appreciated by my customers, by my vendors, by my staff. If you are a car buff and you collect exotic cars, then I value attaining, maintaining, and fixing or driving my exotic cars. There's no judgment here. It's just to say what I value. It's to say what I value. Okay? Relationships. Now, all of this, the material, comes from a lot of, this is where it gets a little bit difficult over here, but it has some stuff to do with like the mind and the body. These are the aspects of us living in the material world, our body and our mind in the material world. All right, so let's look at our relationships with ourselves and others. What do we value? Some people actually, without realizing it, value contentiousness because it gives them a spark of feeling like they're alive. So if they don't have an argument or a fight periodically, they start to feel dull or invisible. So sometimes they value contentiousness, regardless of what happens after the disagreement. But it's, what do you value? It's paying attention to what you value. Do you value harmony and good communications? Do you value mystery? Do you value privacy? Do you value being extroverted? Do you value your romantic relationships more than your family relationships? Do you value your family relationships more than friendships? Friendships more than your relationship with yourself? It's an interesting way to think this through. Saying what I value is not as easy as you think it is, and this is why it's so important to start these three classes by putting some effort into determining what you value. Okay? Your body. What do you value? You know, when I started this journey, there's two examples that I use to say how I used to live. So one thing was I was definitely the kind of person that could take out a bag of Doritos, and I could just like eat my way right through that bag of Doritos. Like that was one of those foods where I had a bottomless pit for it. So the next day, without kind of realizing, not only were my fingers stained orange, but the next day I was sluggish, I was swollen, I had no mental clarity. So I started to realize as I went through the process of turning the lights back on the strands of my cable, I started to realize that I would get a Doritos hangover. Now, that sounds like, well, why would you ever eat Doritos again? Well, in the beginning, when I was starting this journey, I didn't have a sense of how to enjoy myself. So sometimes a Dorito hangover gave me a day of not having to decide anything or think of anything or help anybody or be responsible to anybody. So it was sort of like a weird kind of self-created sick day because I had no strength or energy or mental acumen to do what I didn't know I wanted to do. So I also had the same exact relationship with buttermilk pancakes and syrup. So I used to, want to be a good mom, and I'd make that on Sunday mornings, and then on Sundays, even if I didn't drink at all on Saturday night, I'd have a hangover. And after a while, I'm like, why? I guess it's because I work so hard Monday through Saturday. It must be that I'm just so tired and I gotta not do anything and I gotta recharge. But then as I became more intuitive and started listening to the cues in my relationship with my body, I started to recognize that for me, that meal, it depletes me. And it had the effect of giving me a hangover. So I had no energy and, again, no mental clarity for that day. So what I value now, because of those experiences, is I value a relatively strong relationship with how I feed myself. And when I feed myself and have a result of having low energy or a food hangover, at least I'm completely aware of why I feel like that the next day or why I feel like that a few hours later. And if I insert myself, I say, well, I guess I needed some downtime, or I guess maybe I was working too much and I didn't realize to take time off, or maybe I, whatever. But at least I'm aware of the consequence. And now I value feeding myself in a way that keeps me vibrant and alive and awake and purposeful. And the purpose is not to get more done necessarily, but it's to be able to make a clear choice about whether I want to do something or not. I want to sit and read a book for 2 hours is very different than I can't do anything but sit and read today because I have a Dorito hangover, right? Very different. It's being active in your own life when you become aware of what you value, okay? I'm going to let you guys spend a minute. Just try to type some questions about what you value. Let me just give a few illustrations here. As you can see, I find this way more difficult to decide what I value, the mind, body, spirit, which is why I like it outlaid like this. But they really do parallel to each other. But soul could be that I value when people are kind. I value when people are friendly. I value when people go out of their way to acknowledge one another. I value a firm handshake. Guys, remember that? I value a firm handshake. I value eye contact. I value hugs. If you don't value any of that, then that's okay. This is a matter of saying, what do I value? What do I value? I value when people applaud each other, when they celebrate each other. So this is all soulful choices, but it can go into the relationship column. It can go into the physical column. And now you can see a little bit of how it works, okay, of choosing what you value. What a good thing to do is to think about all the areas of your life and what you remember from pre-virus. Like go through in your mind's eye, just go through a day or go through a week, all the things you do. Think about, grocery shopping or paying the bills or taking care of the dog or cleaning the house or not cleaning the house or catching up with people that you talk to regularly, interactions at work, your career, your hobbies, how you play, your relationship with being creative or creating or having arts or music, your relationship with outdoors. What's your relationship like outdoors? So in order to go through this and come up with some really comprehensive lists for yourself, go through what day-to-day life might have been like before we became isolated, and see what it is that you value in that. Okay. And let's, if you want to make lists, if you want to make columns, if you want to make bullets, I think it's a lot easier than, full out paragraphs, but let's share with each other. So as soon as you have your lists, try to send them to me. I totally lost the cap to one of these. I mean, it's not like I walked away from my desk or anything, but it's like just gone. But it'll show up again. All right, so, and then share. And I'll be honest with you, Monday's a really big work day for me. So not to put any pressure on you, because then you only have Saturday and Sunday, but it's going to be a lot easier for me if you get this stuff to me before Monday. I'm only going to have a little tiny window Monday evening to put the rest in, but it does take some time. So now I've put some pressure on you, but that's good. That's okay. You can have a little pressure on. Just watch 1/2 hour less of Netflix later on tonight, and just put your mind to this. Because as we go through the next 2 classes, we'll start to use this as our launch pad for what it is we discuss in the next 2 experiences. I'm going to put it on so that I can see everybody right now. And raise your hand if you have a question, and I'll unmute you. Okay? Anybody have a particular question or thought? You're a quiet group today. None. We don't have any questions or thoughts. All right, good. All right, good. When you're looking at this chart again, just try to, I'm popping so many different thoughts into my head, but think about, I know it's easy and tempting to say, before the virus, here's what a typical Monday looked like, but expand outside of just what a typical work day would be if Monday is a work day, and expand into looking at what you value in a month or a year. Because what we do in our day-to-day, week in, week out is not necessarily the same as where we put our focus when we are bringing in a month or we're bringing in a year. So if you're looking at only a Monday, you're certainly not going to say, I value on that Monday, I valued traveling, because you definitely didn't go to Europe and back in one day. So as you're looking at this, look past just the day. The day can give you a lot of context, but then expand into a week. It's very important to me that half a day Saturday, I go hiking if the weather's good. And then expand into a month, and you're like, every month I like to such and such. I got to go, visit my mother who lives 3 hours away, whatever. And then expand into a year. A year is when we tend to plan for some of that extra stuff that we really want to put in there. Okay? So when we're looking at what we value, use your life to use that as your launch pad as to what you value. Someone asked if watching my kids develop and grow, does that go under ourselves and others? Yes, that would be relationships. Okay? Absolutely. So if paying attention to your children is something that you value, yes, that would go under the ourselves and relationships. Derek? You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah. So what I value, what's the difference between what I value right now versus what I want, let's say, in the future? So one example would be like, okay, I value traveling, but maybe I haven't traveled in a year or 2 or something like that. So, but I know I want to travel or something like that. So
yeah. It's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it, because that was an intuitive question as well. Because I was even going to say that even though we're going to use our day-to-day life and our monthly life and our yearly life to say what we value, even though I was using that to help us have a springboard for how to think, because it's hard to think in all of those areas of our life. I was also going to say, don't limit yourself just to your routines or even those dreams of things that you fit in a month or a year, because it's not going to cover everything if you do it like that. So Derek, I appreciate you asking that question. So the answer is yes. If you value something, even if you have not been able to have that as a part of your life right now, or it's something that's in your mind as a mission in 5 years or 10 years, or you're working to it or toward it or anything, yes, then it's still something that you value. Okay. And definitely put it down. And then an interesting thing is, here's where, I know it sounds like a lot of effort, but we're only going to do this once. Okay. You can go back and sharpen it anytime you want. And it does take effort. This effort will pay off to you for the rest of your life. It really will, if you put this effort in. Because there are going to be things that you value that have absolutely nothing to do with your life at all. You might have never put a penny or a moment or a word to anyone. So an example of that is, I just canceled out my own example, but I'll give it to you anyway. So what I value is I value the natural big cat's kingdom. Okay. So I value not having the human animal be predatory by taking resources, land, or life away from big cats, right? So my whole life, I really didn't do anything about it. And then I said, I just negated myself. Well, last summer I did go to, I can't believe I'm bringing this up with a stupid Tiger Man show on right now, because that's ruining my whole beautiful message here. But I went to a real rescue big cat place out in, it was on the foothills of Yosemite last summer. And I went there because I absolutely love it. And I loved seeing them truly rescuing animals and truly understanding their behaviors and truly studying how to build up the populations in Africa or Asia and so on. That stupid show ruined that for me. But you get what I mean. So up until I went to the Big Cat Rescue Center, I might have valued the wildlife in the big cat kingdom. I just didn't do anything about it, but it doesn't mean that I didn't value it. All right. So it's important to think in terms of, you might not, again, we have a finite lifetime, finite weeks and days and hours and months. So we have to prioritize where we put our focus. So we might not be able to put our focus or our energy toward some things that we value, even if we're not participating in them directly. Okay. All right. So that was a very good question. And there's another question here, I thought, and I think I lost it. I don't know. I think I answered them. All right. Anybody else? Raise your hand or have any question? Okay. Janine, is it? All right. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So when you say value, things that bring you joy, bring things that have, you're interested in, like you said, big cats, that reminded me about watching documentaries about the elephants that I enjoyed, and then I subscribed to National Geographic. And so you're talking about things like that, I feel like an interest, a pull that I love learning about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And again, you know, like I said earlier, if you never looked at a video about elephants, it doesn't mean you don't value it. It doesn't have to be that you've actively participated in gaining knowledge, but you can still value it. Okay?
Right.
All right. So what you value is what we're thinking about. What makes you feel happy, what makes you feel peaceful, what makes you feel joy or exhilaration or any of those above the line emotions. What you value is what gives you those above the line emotions. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. So, and it's interesting because, like, I have a friend who's really huge he created a foundation for love. And it's 25 years old now. And it's just magnificent the way it's permeated like 600 different countries. It's just a magnificent organization. And, you know, one day he and I were on the phone and he always would like if he felt something in him that didn't feel filled with love or harmony, he would talk it through with me, and I could bring like a different perspective from guides in that might help him with whatever that was. And this one day he was saying how he was so uncomfortable because he hated rap. So first of all, I helped him to understand that we don't have to feel like we hate something. If you have a preference for a different type of music or a different genre, then you can observe that you have a preference, but it doesn't mean that you have to hate that which exists, because you can still value the fact that rap has a perhaps positive application or a unifying element for communities that are not communities that you live in. It might not be your community. So the reason he was passing this by me was because he had a contest each year, an art contest, art and music contest for about love. And one year, a young man from Detroit wrote and said, "I would like my submittal to be a rap song. How do I submit a rap? How do I submit a song?" Right? So everybody was handing in PDFs and all different forms, but he wanted to know how he could submit this. So my friend called me and he's like, "So now I don't know what to do, because what do I do when I get this? I don't want a rap song in the contest. I don't feel comfortable with rap and I don't like it." So what wound up happening is we started to talk about observe versus prefer, and seeing that there are different genres of every expression or experience or contribution out there that can be suitable for all of the different personalities and where we all are in our place. And what wound up happening was this young man submitted, my friend called me a week later, and he never calls me 2 weeks in a row. So he calls a week later and he's like, "You got to hear this." And he played the song for me, and it was a song that this young man wrote and sang and performed. And it was, it was rap. It was rap. But it was all about unconditional love, but in a really like brutal environment. And he was like, "Now I see what you mean. Just because rap wasn't speaking to me doesn't mean that it doesn't have a place in the world where it is the way other people express themselves." Okay? So it doesn't even have to be something that you like. The point is that do you value its expression? Do you value its availability? Do you value that it's a choice? And so on. Like a lot of people right now have, maybe a political orientation where they prefer one political party. Does it mean that you don't value a two-party system? No, it's not necessarily what it means. You still can value a two-party system even if you have a preference for your chosen party. Someone wrote that can one value too much? I don't think you can ever value too much, because value is not an inactive verb. To value something is just a part of you. I don't think you can ever have too much value or appreciation for anything. When you start moving value into action, then you might value too much, because you might be trying to do too much, or your focus can get diluted. We have, the infinite, we have a limited span of our time, our focus, our energy that we can give, and our money. So if you see valuing something as how you act upon what you value, then yes, you can value too much by diluting the resources you have available. But no, we can never value too much. We just can't. All right? And I think that brings us right to, I know that you guys have a lot to think about here, and it's worth it. That's what I can tell you, is that it's worth it. At this time in history, at this time in your life, this is a very valuable exercise. So, and also after Monday, even though I would like to share as much as I can with people on Monday, this is something that you want to keep going until you have a list that you feel really comfortable with. Cross things off that you don't really care about, and put things on as they grow in your feeling of their significance. And also from Monday through the following Thursday, I'll also continue to share the homework. So don't feel, even though I just put a ton of pressure on you, Don't feel pressured because we actually do have plenty of time for this. Okay. I just want you to get into it while we're really thinking about it. Okay. And I'm gonna leave you. I'll start out next time with this thought, but we've got a lot to do in the next 2 sessions. And when you put effort into this homework assignment, we're going to be able to fly in our next 2 meetings. Okay. All right, everyone, raise your hand and wave to each other. You can unmute and say hello if you'd like. Let me look at all of your faces. I just really love seeing you all. Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
I like that, Paula. How'd you do that?
No, it's with the, oh wait, am I on? No.
Yeah, you are.
Wait,
How'd you do that?
it's with the handshake. It's with the raising hands feature. And a raising hand feature.
Oh, that's so cool. And there's a clapping one.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so exciting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. That's so exciting. I really love it. All right, good. I'm very happy to see you all. All of you who have gorgeous weather today, go out and enjoy it, and I will see you Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Good seeing everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.